What's good, everyone? This is Monaro and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to cover chapters 13 to 18. Hope you enjoy. The abandoned village of White Tree is dominated by the largest tree Jon Snow has ever seen. The weirwood shades the entire village beneath its canopy, but the size does not disturb Jon as much as the face, whose jagged mouth is large enough to swallow a sheep and contains human bones. Lord Commander Mormont notes that the tree is old, and Jon adds that it is powerful as well. Thorin Smallwood declares he now understands why men feared the heart trees when they first came to Westeros and cut them down. Jon replies that his father claimed no man could tell a lie in front of a heart tree, and Mormont agrees his father said the same. Mormont asks Jon to retrieve the blackened skull from the ashes. When he reaches in, Jon finds another skull underneath it. As he examines the skull, Mormont wishes he had asked why the wildlings burned their dead when there was still a few around to ask. Jon remembers the white he fought and is certain he knows the reason. Musing on what they might learn if bones could talk, Mormont orders the house's search. Jon is paired with Edison Tollett, nicknamed Dolorous Ed. As they search, Dolorous Ed says the dead walking is bad enough, but now Mormont wants them talking too. The gray-haired squire adds that the dead might lie or be full of tedious complaints. Entering one of the houses, Jon notes the dirt floor and lack of furnishing and calls it a dismal place to live. Dolorous Ed replies that he was born in such a house and then fell on hard times. They find nothing as expected. White Tree is the fourth village they have searched, and each has been as empty. When Jon asks what he thinks happened here, Dolorous Ed responds he does not want to imagine. Re-emerging, they find Chet using the hounds to search and cursing angrily. When Jon meets Chet's eyes, he can tell there is no love lost between them. Thorin Smallwood, dressed in the late Sir Jeremy Riker's armor and cloak and looking more lordly than Mormont, declares there were wildlings here a year ago. Jarman Buckwell replies that much can change in a year. Sir Malador Locke opines that fewer wildlings means fewer worries. Then Bedwick, a 5-foot ranger known as Giant, descends from the giant tree to report a lake to the north and low hill to the west. With 3 hours of daylight left, Mormont decides to head for the lake to make camp. After writing a report to Maester Aemon, the Lord Commander sends Jon to find Samwell Tarly to send the message. Jarman Buckwell's scouts ride out first, followed by Thorin Smallwood's vanguard, Mormont's main force, the baggage train under Sir Malador Locke, and finally the rear guard under Sir Auden Withers, a total of 200 men and 300 horses. As he rides, Jon exercises his scarred fingers to keep his sword hand from growing stiff and clumsy. He is likely to need his sword hand beyond the wall, especially now. The Black brothers left Castle Black in good spirits, but the silence of the woods has unnerved them all. Not only have the wildlings disappeared, but the game as well. Even the veteran rangers agree the haunted forest has never seemed so haunted. He finds Sam watering the horses who carry the raven cages. A few of the ravens shriek sounds like words, and Jon asks if Sam is teaching them to speak. Sam explains 3 of them to say, snow. Jon comments that one bird croaking his name was enough. When Sam asks about White Tree, Jon gives him Mormont's report. Sam dispatches a raven with the message, lamenting that he wishes it could carry him back as well. When Jon asks about him still being afraid, Sam admits he is not as frightened as he was. At first, he could not sleep for fearing every noise was a wildling creeping up to kill him, but now he knows there are no wildlings around. Jon remarks to himself that 200 brave men left the wall, and only Sam, the self-confessed coward, is growing less afraid. Sam says he is sore from the rough living, but he is working on his maps. Jon jokingly threatens to volunteer Sam as an outrider, which Sam emphatically protests. Sam then admits he hoped they would stay in the village under a roof. Jon points out that there are not enough houses for everyone and rides off again. Ghost, who has been hunting well away from the line of march, appears as Jon is swinging wide of the village to avoid the congested column. The White Wolf has been having no more luck than the foragers. Jon remembers telling Tywin that their numbers were probably frightening away the game, but Tywin only agreed the game was being frightened by something. When Jon rejoins Mormont, he mentions that Sam is teaching the ravens to talk. Mormont snorts that he will regret that, as they make a lot of noise but say nothing worth hearing. They ride in silence for a while before Jon comments on what his uncle Benjen would make of the empty villages. Mormont continued Jon's thought that Benjen would have pushed on to find out why, and perhaps someone or something did not want that known. Mormont declares that when Qhorin Halfhand joins them, they will be 300 men and not so easy for an enemy to deal with. He promises Jon that they will find them, but Jon wonders if they will be found instead. The river seems a peaceful place to Arya until Kos finds a soldier decomposing in the reeds. Yoren sends Dauber to search the body for valuables, and finding they cannot cross, he takes Kos upriver and sends Wath and Garin downriver to look for a ford. While they wait, Lami and Tarber go wading and throw mud at Hot Pie, while Arya watches Kurz catch a fish with his hands, thinking it must be easier than catching cats. The scouts return at midday to report only a burnt bridge. Drawing a map in the mud, Yoren explains that the river flows south from the God's Eye. With no way to cross the river without abandoning the wagons, they cannot pass along the lake's western shore as planned, and going east will bring them back to the King's Road. Yoren decides to go north to where the river meets the lake, sell all they have to hire a boat in the town there, and sail across the lake to Harrentown. There they can buy new mounts or take refuge at Harrenhal, the seat of Lady Shella Went, a known friend of the Night's Watch. Hot Pie worries about ghosts at Harrenhal, but Yoren only spits. Arya recalls old Nan's stories about evil King Harren and how Aegon unleashed his dragons to turn the castle into a pyre. Old Nan told that fiery spirits still haunt the castle, and sometimes men who sleep there are found burnt alive in the morning, but Arya does not believe the stories. It will be knights at Harrenhal, not ghosts, and she can reveal herself to Lady Went and maybe be escorted home. They pass abandoned cottages and unattended fields to find the town deserted as well, which frightens Arya when she wonders what scared the people away. Growing apprehensive, Yoren leaves 10 recruits to guard the wagons and splits the rest up to search the town while he investigates the tower house. Wath once pulled up an oar on a galley, so Yoren orders him to take Arya, Gendry, Hot Pie, and Lami to search for boats. The docks are empty except for a rotten rowboat, and Arya realizes the people took all the boats when they fled. Lami and Hot Pie suggest they search a nearby inn for food and ale, but Wath insists on sticking to Yoren's orders. Despondent, Arya washes her face in the lake and wonders if she could swim all the way to Winterfell. Wath shouts at her to help search, so she does, but they only find some sails and nails. It is dark when Yoren returns to report the tower house empty. He dismisses suggestions of patching the rowboat or building a new one, but he is intrigued by Gendry's idea of a raft. However, a raft would mean leaving the wagons and staying close to shore, so Yoren decides to sleep on it. Lami asks if they can stay at the inn, but Yoren chooses the holdfast for its protective wall. Arya argues they should not stay at all since even the Lord ran away. Lami mocks her as scared, but Yoren declares her reasoning smart, except the Night's Watch takes no part and nobody is their enemy. Arya thinks that nobody is their friend either, but she remains silent to avoid seeming craven. The holdfast is surrounded by a 10-foot wall of rough-cut stone with iron bars to brace the front gate. Besides the main gate, there is a postern to the north and a narrow tunnel that leads to the lakeshore hidden under the barn. Yoren asks them to park a wagon on the trap floor to make sure nobody enters that way. He also assigns 3 watches and sends Tarber, Kurz, and Cutjack to keep watch from the tower house, telling Kurz to use his hunting horn if danger threatens. They drive their wagons and animals inside and bar the main gate. Dauber, Gendry, and Arya draw cook duty, and Arya is set to pluck the goose and 2 chickens Kos brings in, while Gendry splits wood and Yoren sharpens his dirk. Everyone is quiet during the meal, even Lami. Arya draws second watch, but when sleep proves difficult, she borrows Yoren's whetstone and hones needle instead. Hot Pie asks where she got such a sword, more politely than before, and she admits her brother gave it to her. Hot Pie is surprised, as Arya has never mentioned any brothers. Arya replies that she has lots of brothers, but when Hot Pie asks whether they are older or younger than her, she lies that they are all older, with long swords, and they taught her how to kill people who bother her. Hot Pie insists he's just talking, but then leaves her alone. Curling up on her pallet, Arya is annoyed by the crying girl, who is crying as usual. Arya dreams of a wolf howling and wakes at once. Pulling on her boots, she asks if anyone else heard anything. Lami mocks her for having wolves in her head, and Wath and Garen assures her the wolves are safely outside. Arya insists there was a wolf, and before the others can shut her down, they hear Kurze's hunting horn. In a heartbeat, everyone is dressing and arming themselves, while Arya rushes to the gate. As she passes the barn, Jaqen H'ghar calls out for her to free the criminals so they can fight, but she ignores him. Climbing the parapet, Arya glimpses hundreds of men with torches setting fire to the town. Gendry asks how many there are, but they are moving too fast to count. Soon a column of riders approach the holdfast. Arya thinks their banner might be red, but the flames turn everything red, orange, or black. Reining up before the gates, a knight in a spiked helm demands they open it in the name of the king. Rayson sarcastically asks which king, earning him a cuff from Wath. When Yoren explains that the townsfolk are gone, the knight suggests Yoren might be one of Beric Dondarrion's men, and Thoros of Myr could be hiding with them. Yoren insists he has only some lads for the Night's Watch and shows his black cloak as evidence, but the Knight's banner bearer insists it could be the House Dondarrion's purple lightning bolt on black. Arya now recognizes the Lannister banner and remembers that Beric Dondarrion was the man her father sent out to behead Sir Gregor Clegane. The Knight demands they open the gate or be known as outlaws, but Yoren demands to know who is in command. A stout man with a manticore on his shield rides forward to introduce himself as Sir Armory Lorch, bannerman to Lord Tywin Lannister, and repeat the order to open the holdfast in the name of the true king, Joffrey Baratheon. Yoren says it does not matter to him if they burn the town, but his band are not their foes and should be left alone. Arya is bewildered by the raiders and cannot see they are neither lords nor knights, but Gendry opines that they simply do not care. Looking at Sir Armory's face the way Syrio Forel taught her, Arya realizes Gendry is right. Sir Armory insists his men be allowed to verify Yoren's story, but Yoren senses a trick and refuses again. He declares them rebels, be they black brothers or not. Yoren informs Lorch that he has some young boys with him, but Lorch declares they will die just the same. He gives a languid signal and a spear hurtles towards Yoren, but kills Wath instead. Lorch orders his men to storm the walls and kill everyone. More spears fly, followed by torches. Yoren commands them to spread out and hold the walls. Arya finds herself next to Hot Pie, who panics and says he does not know how to fight. Arya lies that it is easy and pushes aside a sudden terror to scream, "Winterfell!" and hack at the first hand to appear on the parapet. Warned by Hot Pie, Arya forces the next climber back off the wall. Following her example, Hot Pie hacks the hand of a third. Sir Armory and his men have no ladders, but the walls are rough enough to climb, so there is no end to the foes, and each man they defeat is immediately replaced. Arya sees Yoren driving his dirk into the knight in the spiked helm, and watches Koss shoot down 4 axemen attacking the gate. She sees the Lannister banner again and wishes Joffrey was present for her to stab. Dobbo wrestles a man off the walk and Lami smashes his head, yet Lami's celebration is cut short when he sees Dobber's body with the man's knife in his belly. She hears Kyle beg for mercy until a knight with a wisp sigil smashes his face with a spiked mace. The smell of blood, smoke, iron, and piss blur together. Arya, Gendry, and Hot Pie wrestle a skinny man to the ground. Gendry breaks his sword in the man's helm, which falls off to reveal an old, faint face. Arya feels sorry for the man, even as she and Hot Pie are killing him. Gendry takes the man's sword and leaps down into the yard, looking for foes. Arya notices more enemies have invaded the holdfast and follows Gendry, but she is uncertain which way to go since death is all around her. Suddenly, Yoren is shaking her. He declares the battle is lost and orders her to gather as many survivors as she can and escape through the tunnel under the barn. Quick as that, he storms off again to rejoin the fighting. Arya grabs Gendry and explains the plan. They call Hot Pie down from the walk and find Lamy bleeding from a spear wound in his calf. They find Garen too, but he is too seriously wounded. The crying girl will not walk even when slapped, so Arya has to drag her while the others race ahead. The barn is on fire when she arrives, and Hot Pie urges her to just leave the girl behind, but Arya stubbornly continues to drag her. Hot Pie abandons them and scuffles back inside, but Gendry comes back to hoist the girl over his shoulder. The barn feels like a furnace. The back wall is ablaze, and the animals are kicking and screaming. Inside their wagon, Biter and Roar struggle frantically to get free while Jaqen H'ghar calls out to Arya in his friendly voice. The trapdoor is only a few feet ahead and the fire is spreading fast, which reminds Arya of the hound's horrible burned face. Gendry wonders how to get the little girl through the narrow tunnel. Arya tells him to push her and ask where he left the axe. Eyeing the prisoners, Gendry says it is by the haven, but he would save the animals first. Arya tells him to go ahead with the girl and goes to get the axe. Outside, she sees Kos killed on the spot after he yields. There is no sign of Yorn, but the axe is where Gendry left it. As she wrenches it loose, a mailed hand grabs her arm. Spinning, she drives the axe up between the man's leg, then dashes back to the barn. With heavy smoke pouring out and the animals screaming within, going back in the barn is the hardest thing she has ever done. Inside, the roof has caught fire as well, and flaming bits of wood and straw are raining down. The smoke is so thick she cannot see the wagon, so she crawls towards Biter's screams. Finding the wagon, she throws the axe in and runs for the tunnel. Rorge catches it and starts hacking at the wagon. Arya hears the wagon splinter just before she rolls headfirst in the tunnel. She drops 5 feet and gets dirt in her mouth, but she does not care. She has crawled only a dozen feet when she hears the barn crash, sending a cloud of smoke and black dust billowing up behind her, smelling of hell. She holds her breath and kisses the mud on the floor. Then she cries, but she does not know for whom. Cersei Lannister is furious upon learning that Stannis Baratheon is circulating letters accusing her of incest. The small council has 2 copies of the proclamation, one received by Maester Franken at Castle Stokeworth and a second received by Lord Giles Rosby. Littlefinger notes that if Stannis sent letters to them, every other lord in the Seven Kingdoms has seen a copy. Cersei wants every copy burned so that neither her father nor Joffrey learns of them, but Tyrion Lannister points out copies have likely been sent to Harrenhal and Casterly Rock as well, and the secret is out. When Cersei rages that she is being accused of incest, adultery, and treason, Tyrion is impressed by her acting skills since he knows the accusations are perfectly true. He points out that such claims are to be expected since Stannis needs a pretext to justify his rebellion. When Cersei insists she will not be called a whore, Tyrion only thinks that Stannis never claimed Jaime paid her. Glancing back over the letter, Tyrion points out the strange words, "done in the light of the Lord." Grand Maester Pycelle explains it is a term commonly used in the Free Cities, and Littlefinger notes that Varys, who is absent for reasons known only to Tyrion, reported years ago that Stannis' wife Selyse took up with a Red Priest. Tyrion notes that this can be used as propaganda against Stannis. Cersei brings up the accusations again and urges an edict to suppress its dissemination. Tyrion points out that tearing out a man's tongue only proves you fear what he might say. When Cersei asks what he proposes, Tyrion suggests that they let people whisper until they grow bored. Without proof, many will see the letter as Stannis' pathetic attempt to justify his rebellion. Littlefinger agrees, adding that they should fight fire with fire by spreading a similar rumor that Shireen Baratheon is a bastard and Stannis is a cuckold. Littlefinger proposes Shireen's fool Patchface should be called the father to make the story more shocking. Pycelle exclaims that Lady Selyse would never bring a fool into her bed, but Littlefinger replies one would have to be a fool to want to bed Selyse. He adds that the fool's devotion to the girl and their similarly mottled, half-frozen faces will enforce the tale. Pycelle protests that Shireen was scarred by grayscale, but Littlefinger notes that small folk are not known for their intelligence. Cersei smiles and calls Littlefinger wicked, and he thanks her. Tyrion recommends the news not come from them, lest it be seen as the self-serving lie it is, and Littlefinger suggests using whores and pot shops. Tyrion takes his leave, and when Cersei asks why, he tells her he is having a gift made for Joffrey, a little chain. Cersei retorts that Joffrey has lots of chains, and Tyrion cannot buy his love. Tyrion replies that one day Joffrey may treasure this chain above all others. Bronn is waiting outside to inform Tyrion the smiths he summoned are waiting in his audience chamber. Tyrion teases the sellsword that he almost sounds like a proper courtier and teases that he will be kneeling next. Bronn's response is, "Fuck off, dwarf." Tyrion counters with, "That's Shay's task." As Bronn escorts him back to the Tower of the Hand, Lady Tanda Stokeworth hails Tyrion, but he ignores her and gives orders for his litter to be prepared. In his chambers, he finds his timid squire Podrick Payne laying out his clothing and the Hand's chain of office. Entering his audience chamber, Tyrion cuts straight to the point by presenting the assembled smiths with 3 links of an immense chain and commanding them to make 1,000 more. He orders every forge and every metal worker in the city put to work making and joining more links, and puts Goodman Ironbelly in charge of seeing it done. The smiths immediately ask about the Queen's order for armor and weapons, and her threat of crushed hands for missed quotas. Tyrion assures them no hands will be crushed, thinking of the love Cersei is creating for them among the small folk. Ironbelly asks about supplies of iron and coke, and Tyrion promises Lord Baelish will see they have enough coin while the city watch will help them find and melt down every horseshoe in the city for iron if required. Then an older smith, Salorian, complains that such work is only fit for common smiths, not master armorers like himself. He offers to make Tyrion a terrifying suit of plate instead, but Tyrion replies that he can either make chains or wear them, and then departs. Outside, Bronn waits with a litter and an escort of black ears. As he travels, Tyrion muses that he has set hundreds of carpenters to building fishing boats instead of catapults, opened the Kingswood to hunters, and even set gold cloaks foraging to deal with hunger in the city, but people still give him accusing looks. He also reflects that Cersei missed the importance of Stannis' declaring himself king, and wonders what Renly Baratheon will make of it. Peering out into the streets, he wonders who the informers in the crowds are, and decides they are likely the most innocent-looking ones. His destination is a 2-story brothel behind Rhaenys Hill. Inside, he is greeted by a tall, black-skinned woman who names herself Shataya. When Tyrion asks to see the girls, Shataya recommends a dark-skinned girl of 16 who turns out to be her daughter Alayaya. In the Summer Isles, being a whore is considered an honor and pleasing to the gods. Tyrion wonders what the gods have to do with it, and jests that he would be much more religious if he could pray with his cock. Leading Tyrion upstairs to the turret room, Alayaya directs him into a wardrobe where he finds a secret panel, and beyond that a hidden shaft leading down to an underground tunnel where Varys waits in disguise. Tyrion asks if Shataya can be trusted, and Varys explains she has no love for the queen and is grateful to be rid of Alardine. When Tyrion asks how the brothel came to have a secret entrance, Varys explains that the tunnel was dug for another hand who would not enter the house openly. Emerging into a stable, Varys helps disguise Tyrion as a child and saddle a horse. Tyrion tells him that Stannis has accused Jaime and Cersei of incest and asks how he came by that suspicion. Varys responds that perhaps someone whispered it to him, or else he simply looked at the color of a bastard's hair as Jon Arryn and Eddard Stark did. After all, each of the 8 bastards of King Robert that Varys knows had black hair regardless of their mother's color. Tyrion wonders if the whisper might have come from Littlefinger, but Varys refuses to confirm. After Varys helps him mount, Tyrion declares to Varys that he is either his best friend or his worst enemy. Varys replies that he feels quite the same about Tyrion. Bran is awake long after dawn. Winterfell is full of guests for the harvest feast, and he must play the prince. He always wanted to be a knight, not a prince, but now that he is broken, he must spend his days listening to old men discuss things he barely understands. Lord Wyman Manderley arrived from White Harbor 2 days ago, and Bran welcomed him from his father's high seat. Afterward, Sir Roderick Cassel said he had done well, but Manderley was only the first. Many lords with matters to discuss with their overlord will use the feast as a pretext. Hodor arrives to help him dress. Bran prefers to dress himself, but some things are just quicker with help. Bran is astonished by Hodor's deftness and strength, and says he could have been a great knight if the gods had left him his wits. Mounting into his basket, Bran instructs Hodor to carry him downstairs. Out in the yard, Bran watches the Walders jousting against Quintains. Bran notes that Little Walder struck harder, but Big Walder sat his horse better. When Little Walder sees Bran on Hodor's back, he remarks that Hodor is an ugly horse, which angers Bran. The Walders continue to insult Hodor, and Little Walder begins bumping him with his horse. Bran grows angrier and threatens to sick Summer on them, but Little Walder points out he is wearing armor and says he wants a wolfskin's cloak. Then Maester Luwin arrives to break up the argument and chastise the Walders. Big Walder has the grace to look ashamed, but Little Walder remains haughty. Luwin reminds them that the good lords protect the weak and warns them to stay out of the Godswood. He then calls on Bran to come with him to meet Lord Wyman. The Maester tells Bran he was right to defend Hodor, but it should not have been necessary to fetch him to meet Lord Wyman. Bran apologizes and asks if they will talk of the war. Luwin reminds Bran that he is only 8 and should not speak unless spoken to. Inside, Bran is seated in his father's chair with Maester Luwin and Sir Roderick beside him. The morbidly obese Lord Wyman Manderley is very pleasant, insisting no prince is ever late. He talks about White Harbor being the best place to mint currency and build a fleet for Robb's new kingdom. Talk of warships piques Bran's interest, and he thinks it a splendid idea, but no one asks him. The meeting continues through lunch, during which Lord Wyman inquires about his widowed cousin, Lady Donella Hornwood, whose husband and only son died on the Green Fork and in the Whispering Wood. He suggests that he should be interested in marrying her, or she could wed his son, Sir Wendell. Later, Lord Wyman informs them that Tywin Lannister has offered to ransom his son, Sir Willis, who was taken captive on the Green Fork, if he withdraws his support for King Robb. He has, of course, refused, but hopes for an equitable prisoner exchange as soon as possible. Lady Hornwood arrives during supper, and Bran expresses his condolences to the grief-stricken widow. She thanks them, but asks leave to rest and continue the next day. The next morning's talk is devoted to preparation for the coming winter until Lady Hornwood warns them that Roose Bolton's bastard son, Ramsay Snow, is massing men at the Dreadfort and refuses to explain his purpose. When Sir Roderick says he does not know the man, Lady Hornwood explained that Ramsay lived with his mother until Domeric Bolton died and left Roose without an heir. She admits that Ramsay brought along an equally cruel servant named Reek, who is said to never bathe. The two hunt together and not for deer, and there are other tales that are hard to believe even of a Bolton. Lady Hornwood fears Ramsay covets her lands now that her husband and son are gone. Bran wants to give her 100 men, but Sir Roderick only promises to protect her lands and adds that in time it may be prudent for her to wed again. She remarks that she is beyond childbearing age, yet attracts more suitors than ever. She promises to marry if commanded, but there is no one to her liking. She points out that Lord Manderley is too big to share a bed with or lie underneath. Bran knows that men sleep on top of their wives, and imagines sleeping under Lord Wyman would be like sleeping under a horse. Sir Roderick sympathizes and promises to look for a suitor more to Lady Hornwood's taste, at which point she hints interest in Sir Roderick himself. After she leaves, Maester Luwin points out Lady Hornwood's hint, which makes Sir Roderick uncomfortable. Bran notes that she is sad. Sir Roderick adds that she is also gentle and not unattractive, but still a threat to the realm. Bran is incredulous, but the Maester explains that without a direct heir, there will be many claims to her lands, which Robb must adjudicate as the liege lord. When Bran suggests Sir Roderick, the old Castellan replies that he is only a knight and too old. When he dies, the problem would resurface. Thinking of his own half-brother, Bran suggests Lord Hornwood's 12-year-old bastard Larence Snow. Sir Roderick doubts that will please Lady Hornwood, but Maester Luwin insists they consider it. Bran asks to be excused, and Sir Roderick agrees, saying he did well. There are still a few hours of daylight, so Bran goes to the Godswood to visit Summer. He has Hodor take him to his favorite place by the pool near the heart tree. Suddenly, a naked Osha explodes out of the cold pool, startling everyone. When Bran asks about the cold, Osha says she likes it. She notices Bran staring at her and asks if he has never seen a naked woman. Bran has bathed with his sisters and seen serving women bathing, but Osha is hard and covered in scars, which she tells him were earned fighting men, mostly Night's Watch. She even killed one. Then she mentions overhearing that the Walders mocked Hodor. Bran recalls that Hodor never fights and says that Septon Chael says Hodor has a gentle spirit. Osha replies that little Walder is well named, big outside, little inside, and mean to the bones. Then she asks if Bran has had any more wolf dreams. When he says no, Osha declares a prince should lie better and begs his leave before hurrying back to the kitchens. That night, Bran dreams of a werewood calling to him and a three-eyed crow pecking at his face. He wakes to the clamor of the arrival of the Umbers from beyond the last river. The next day, he greets their leaders, two of Great Jon Umber's uncles, Mor's Umber, known as Crow Food, because he lost an eye to a crow that thought him dead, and Hothor Umber, known as Horsebane, for reasons no one will tell Bran. Mors immediately asks to wed Lady Hornwood. Luwin and Roger explain she is grieving but promise to consider it. Hothor asks for lordship to stop wildling raids across the Bay of Seals. Sir Roderick recommends Hothor cooperate with Lord Manderley to provide lumber and receive shipwrights and sailors. During the audience, the steward of Deepwood Mott arrives with apologies from Lady Sybil Glover, who is tending to her young children. Bran quickly realizes the steward is the true ruler, while Lord Galbert Glover and his brother Robert Glover are away fighting. After discussing the harvest, Sir Roderick questions the steward about Laryn Snow, and afterward, Maester Luwin praises Bran's notion of making the bastard heir to Hornwood and says he will make a good lord for Winterfell one day. Bran protests that Robb's son with his Frey girl will be lords instead of him, but Sir Roderick points out that nothing is certain. He has only his daughter Beth despite 3 marriages, and his brother Martin Cassell's line died with his son Jory despite having 4 sons. The next day, Leopold Tallheart from Torrent Square, who arrived the day before, has his audience. He brings word that his nephew Benford Tallheart is raising his own company of young lancers who all think themselves another young wolf. Leopold dismissed them as young rabbits once, so now they call themselves the Wild Hares. Bran remembered Benford visiting Winterfell and being friendly with Robb and Theon Greyjoy. Clearly displeased, Sir Roderick orders that Benford is to remain at Torrent Square as commanded. Then Leopold mentions that his own wife Brenna was sister to Lord Hallis Hornwood and suggests sending her younger son Baron to foster with Lady Hornwood, saying he may even take up the Hornwood name if made heir. Bran has learned the proper answer and promises to bring up the matter with Robb and Lady Hornwood. After the audience, Maester Luwin states that he likes the idea, but Sir Roger thinks it will be hard for a boy to hold the lands. Luwin admits that with the Riverlands now part of the kingdom, it may be best to wed her to one of the Lords of the Trident. In the days that follow, ravens arrive with regrets from the other houses. The bastard Ramsay Snow will not be joining them. The Mormonts and the Karstarks have all gone south. Lord Andrew Locke is too old. Lady Lysa Flint is too pregnant, and there is sickness at Widow's Watch. That leaves just Lord Howland Reed, who has not left his swamps in 16 years, and the House Serwyn, whose Lord Medgar Serwyn is a captive of the Lannisters. Then, one blistering day, 14-year-old Clay Serwyn arrives with a dozen lancers while Bran is riding Dancer in the yard. Clay has always been a friend to Bran and his brothers, and he immediately asks if Stannis Baratheon wrote Winterfell about Joffrey Baratheon being ill-born. Bran suddenly feels like a giant hand is crushing his chest. When Clay asks if he is all right, Bran declares that Robb will beat Stannis too. That night, he does not have the dreamless sleep he prayed for. The three-eyed crow pecks out his eyes, telling him to fly. Then the crow pecks his brow until it pecks through his skull, and then suddenly Bran can see again. He is climbing a tower, slipping. He calls out for help, and a golden man appears above him, saying, "The things I do for love," and then tossing him out into empty air. Sansa has found an anonymous note under her pillow telling her to come to the Godswood tonight if she wants to go home. She continues reading it over and over, wondering what it could mean. She has prayed so hard for a true knight to save her, but perhaps it was only one of Joffrey's cruel jokes or a clever snare to prove her disloyalty. She fears she will only find Sir Ilan Payne waiting for her with ice. When her bedmate enters unannounced to ask if she wants a bath, Sansa hurriedly hides the note. Worried the girl saw it, Sansa asks for a fire. Once the fire is lit, she orders the girl out and decides there was something sly in her eyes. Her servants are changed every fortnight to prevent her from befriending one, and Sansa is sure they all spy on her. Once alone, she burns the note. From her window, Sansa sees Sir Preston Greenfield pacing the drawbridge of Maegor's Holdfast. She is free to roam the whole Red Keep, but Sir Preston will ask where she is going at this time of night. Unable to think of a lie, Sansa crawls into bed instead, but her thoughts keep her awake. She wishes there was someone to tell her what to do. She misses Septa Mordane and her best friend Jane Poole, and even her sister Arya, who she is sure is back in Winterfell by now. Hearing shouting, Sansa looks out to armed men running to the wall and Sir Preston gone from the drawbridge. Wondering what she is doing, Sansa dresses quickly and hides her meat knife under her cloak. After darting across the undefended drawbridge, she passes men arming in the yard and sees 3 Kingsguard helping Joffrey into his armor. Fortunately, Joffrey is busy calling for his weapons and does not see her. The sound fades as Sansa rushes towards the Godswood, never daring to look back for fear of Joffrey. The Godswood is quiet and there is a wild feel to it even in the heart of the city, and Sansa can feel the old gods watching her. She prefers her mother's gods, with their artwork, incest, rainbows, and rich fabrics and gems, but the Godswood has a certain power too, especially at night. Fearing she is late, Sansa is surprised by the voice of Dantas Hollard, saying he feared she would not come. When he reaches for her, Sansa shrinks back and reaches for her knife. Dantas insists he only wants to help her as she helped him. Sansa asks if he is drunk, and Dantos admits he had a cup of wine to help his courage. Drawing her knife, Sansa asks who sent him. Dantos swears on his knight's honor that he came on his own, but Sansa recalls Joffrey's decree and says she prayed for a knight to save her, not a drunken old fool. Dantos accepts the rebuke, but says he hopes to find it in himself to be a knight again because of her, adding that Sansa not only saved him from Joffrey, but also from himself. Dantos reminds her that Florian was a fool and the greatest knight of all. He falls to his knees and asks to be her Florian. Still unsure, Sansa asks how he plans for her to escape. Dantos explains that the hardest part will be getting her out of the castle. Then a ship could take her home, but he needs to find coin and make arrangements without raising suspicions, which will take time since he is also watched. When Sansa puts away her knife, Dantos rises and laments that he did nothing to save her father. He then declares that he is not a hero like Ryman Redwine or Barristan Selmy, and has won no glory in war or tourney, but Sansa has reminded him what it is to be a knight. He pledges himself to her and vows to the old gods that he will send her home. Assured by his solemn oath, Sansa agrees to put herself in his hands, then asks if he will send another letter to let her know when, but he says that would be too dangerous. Instead, he instructs her to come to the Godswood as often as possible since nowhere else is safe. She agrees and promises to be brave, strong, and patient above all. Dantos urges her to leave, and Sansa kisses him softly on the cheek and calls him, "My Florian," certain that the gods have heard her prayer. On her way back, giddily thinking about home and the songs about Florian and Jonquil, Sansa caroms into Sandor Clegane. The Hound catches her before she can fall and asks if she wants to kill them both on the Serpentine steps. When he asks what she is doing out so late, Sansa stutters that she was praying for her father and the king. The Hound replies that he is not drunk enough to believe that story, adding that although she is nearly a woman, Sansa is still just a little bird singing the songs they taught her. He mockingly asks her to sing him a song about knights and fair maids, and asks if she likes knights. Sansa answers true knights, but the hound mocks her and reminds her he is not a knight after all. Reeling and almost falling, the hound curses that he has had too much wine, then offers to take Sansa back to her chambers. He pushes her gently and follows her down the steps. Upon their return, they find Sir Boros Blount guarding the drawbridge. Sansa flinches away, but the hound insists Blount is not to be feared. When Sir Boros asks why she is not in her chambers, Sansa's lie about the gods would sound more convincing than before. The hound adds that she could not be expected to sleep with all the noise. Sir Boros explains that preparations for Tyrek Lannister's wedding feast has convinced some wretches that they should feast too. He adds that Joffrey led a sortie to set the fools scurrying. Clegane states, "A brave boy," but Sansa wonders how brave Joffrey will be when he faces her brother Robb. After crossing the drawbridge, Sansa asks why the hound lets people call him a dog but never a knight. He replies that he likes dogs better, and explains that his grandfather was a kennel master at Casterly Rock who received lands and a tower house for saving Lord Titus Lannister from a lion, losing a leg and 3 dogs in the process. He adds that a dog will die for you and never lie to you, which is more than little birds can do. When he adds that he never got his song, Sansa suggests a song about Florian and Jonquil. The hound dismisses it as a song about a fool and his cunt, but insists he will have a song from her one day, whether she wants to or not. Sansa replies she will sing for him gladly, but Clegane retorts, "Pretty thing, and such a bad liar. A dog can smell a lie, you know. Look around you and take a good whiff. They're all liars here, and everyone better than you." Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of the month for the entire book, so please leave your questions down below so that I can compile them if you want them answered. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to come back for more. Thanks again. Bye.